Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Rausan Pereira. In a stern message to WhatsApp, the government on Tuesday said that the messaging platform will need to set up a local entity and find a technical solution to trace the origin of fake messages on its platform. Union Minister of Information Technology Ravi Shankar Prasad, after meeting WhatsApp head Chris Daniels, said the Facebook-owned messaging application has contributed significantly to India's digital story, but it needs to find solutions to deal with sinister developments like mob lynching and revenge porn. Daniels' visit to India and his meeting with Prasad follows more than a dozen killings across India this year in mob lynchings fueled by rumors circulating on WhatsApp. The government last month warned the company that it can't evade responsibility if its service is used to spread false information. Meanwhile, media reports said that WhatsApp has agreed to form a corporate entity in India and develop technological tools designed to stop the spread of fake news and other repugnant messages that could foment trouble in the country. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will take a closer look at the fake news problem and how to fix it. Joining me on the program today are Rahul Easwar, author and activist, Srijan Singh, IT expert, Deepak, advocate of the Supreme Court, and Jiten, Jain, director, Voyager, Infosec. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. So I'd like to begin the program with you. So who is to blame for this fake news problem really? Is it a policy issue? Do you believe that, it is because of the lackadaisical approach of the social media companies, a combination of both? What is it really?
I think social media companies present themselves as convenient scapegoats in such issues. As far as I'm concerned, we must realize that most of this content falls under the definition of UGC, user-generated content. And at least 60 to 70% of the content which is generated on social media websites or even platforms such as WhatsApp, it's all user-generated. So as far as I'm concerned, it makes very little sense to hold these people responsible, because at the end of the day, they're merely providing a channel, a conduit, a medium, a platform for dissemination, nothing beyond that. If the government is really serious about fake news, then they must start with mainstream publications, where there is editorial control, where, let's say, the president of the Editors Guild himself has contributed to spreading of fake news. If you do not rein in mainstream publications which can take editorial control and editorial responsibility for the content that they produce themselves, what example are we really setting by going after social media platforms or intermediaries, so to speak? As far as I'm concerned, Facebook or WhatsApp is at best an intermediary. Is it generating the content? No. Do they have an encryption policy in place? Yes. Is that a necessary feature of their particular function or the application itself? Yes. In which case, are you asking them to create a backdoor in their encryption policy to keep a watch on what people do? I don't think this is the kind of example that we should set. You really want to set an example? Start with mainstream publications, newspapers, channels, whatnot. Start with that and then you go after these people if necessary. But at the end of the day, asking these people to develop technologies to filter content out, I don't think is right. At the end of the day, the companies can do only so much. And merely because it makes for fantastic headlines to go after these companies, I don't think that is the way to go about it as far as I am concerned. This is not a policy issue. Perhaps serious issues such as child porn, terror-related activities, you can ask them to perhaps filter it out. But beyond that, can you ask an intermediary to police content and also be the adjudicator of the nature of the content and its legality and its potential to create trouble?
But Sai, that having been said, being a platform, shouldn't there be some responsibility fixed?
The responsibility is this. I agree with you. So the responsibility is this, which is why when it comes to social media platforms or these kind of platforms, what they rely upon is community support, which is somebody realizes that what is being spread is either fake or has the capacity to incite passion, then you report it to this particular entity and you give this entity a certain period of time to act on that particular thing or escalate it to the authorities.
But by that time, the damage is already done.
No, be that as it may, that is the nature of social media. Now, what are we basically asking this particular entity to do? To filter out messages, to create algorithms, to filter out stuff? In which case, how do we not know that what is being created for this particular purpose cannot be used for a much more sinister purpose against the users themselves? Technology is a double-edged sword. So I'm not against the use of technology. But do you really want to hold these people responsible? See, as far as I'm concerned, fake news has to be addressed holistically. It can't be fake news only on a particular platform. What about fake news that comes out on, let's say, mainstream publications on a regular basis?
Points taken.
Right.
It has to be addressed holistically. Don't just go after one aspect or one person is what you're suggesting. Srijan?
Yes. Well, Well, it is true that much of the content is user generated. However, I do not think that these platforms can just shake their hands off and say that, well, since user has done it, I'm not responsible for it, because it is not, this is not how fake news spreads. Fake news spreads when it is paid promoted. There are bots operating on Twitter, there are bots operating on Facebook, which are not humans, and they are in huge numbers, to the extent that estimates say that 15% of all Twitter accounts are actually not humans, they are bots. How does a company like Twitter or Facebook with the best AI technologies allow such bots to continue? And this has been going on for years. Facebook allows, and Twitter and any other social media platform, their main source of revenue is basically paid posts, where they allow users to put money behind posts and make them viral. So they're making money out of this model. And if you're making profits out of this model, you better be responsible for the kind of content which is going there. It is not a free fall thing that my post and your post are not at the same pedestal. If you put money there, your post will be visible to more users, and that platform is given by Facebooks and Twitters of the world, and they need to be held accountable for if such a paid platform makes fake news goes viral.
Right. Let me get in Rahul Easwar now to the picture. You know, Rahul Easwar, how big a problem is this fake news really, and how do we deal with it, do you think?
Absolutely, I think fake news is a huge problem. We live in some kind of a half-truth world. I don't believe in a post-truth world, but a half-truth world where people are using clever half-truth and half-lies to create narratives. There, we have seen the reports of at least more than a dozen people losing their life because of the WhatsApp circulated newses. Yes, I agree with Sri Deepak, who's a brilliant lawyer, saying that we need to have some kind of monitoring system towards the entire news, not only the WhatsApp social media, but mainstream media too. But we cannot allow a situation in India where these kind of news can become lethal and fatal. For example, in Bangalore, many people are saying that something happened in Burma, and many of our Northeast brothers had to leave that particular place. Or there was a particular 1,500 people gathering outside a police station to protest a rape that didn't happen at all. See, I really like WhatsApp, but WhatsApp universities are dangerous. WhatsApp universities are neither good for the right wing or the left wing, because at the end of the day, fake news and wrong news will consume us. So we need to have, internet is a wonderful system. We need to have some checks and balances, and WhatsApp and Facebook can provide their own tools. Even in US, this is a huge discussion point, how to alter out fake news and half-truth based news. Yes, we are at liberty to create our own narratives. That narratives can differ too. At the end of the day, you cannot be blatantly lying to either propel a narrative or either hiding a fact or hiding a truth. The facts can have different faces, but you cannot let lie be a face of a fact. So hopefully, I think government and the WhatsApp and Facebook companies will have some kind of a mechanism where they will see that hatred, bigotry, some kind of inciting violence, all these things can be sorted out and be discouraged in one way or the other, either using their technological expertise or by some kind of monitoring, not policing, but some kind of monitoring.
Okay. There is the technology at the end of the day to deal with the problem, and the technology should be used, is what Rahul Easwar is suggesting. Let me go across to Jiten Jain now. Jiten Jain, so the government has made a few demands as far as WhatsApp is concerned to deal with this issue of fake news. It has asked for a corporate entity in India develop tools to stop the spread of fake news, comply with data localization rules. Financial transactions of Indians have to be stored on Indian servers, and set up a grievance redressal mechanism and appoint an officer to deal with the complaints are some of the demands as far as the government is concerned. When you talk about tools to stop the spread of fake news, what is the kind of technology that can be used really to deal with this problem?
Look, before I go into this debate, a couple of things. I don't think social media companies alone are responsible for this mess. I think we as society and government equally are responsible. Point number two, we've been long blaming the government for not doing anything or not acting enough to deal with this problem of fake news, or not doing enough to police these companies. And you must realize that whenever in the past government has attempted to monitor social media to ensure that to figure out people who are spreading such viral fake content, or people who are trolling or abusing, or people who are spreading rumors, the moment they try to put out any method or policy, or look for any tool or technology to do such thing monitoring social media, immediately there are allegations from different sections of society that government is attempting to now spy on the citizens and all those things. So first of all, we must understand one fundamental difference. When government talks about the monitoring of social media, as long as they are monitoring open source content like your Facebook wall, your Twitter feed, your Instagram feed, they are well within their right, and they should absolutely do it to deal with this problem of fake news. If they talk about monitoring your personal chats, your personal content, your personal emails, your WhatsApp conversation, then there is a problem, and that can be called spying or monitoring or interception. As long as open source monitoring, somebody wants to do, please allow them to do it. Otherwise, how will they know who is spreading what? Third point, in this entire debate, one fundamental narrative constitutes fake news. Is it rumors of mob lynching? Is it rumors of kidnapping? Is it mob photographs? Is it revenge porn? Is it propaganda? Is it political campaign that constitute fake news? Or is it manipulated facts quoted out of context? So we have to realize that, when we are standing 6 months away from elections, we should ensure that we differentiate between all these things. One is absolutely fake content, mob photographs, fake content. Manipulated content like propaganda in favor of a political party or political campaign, or trolling, or running some sort of a social media campaign trying to promote a hashtag, that should not constitute fake news. That is propaganda at the end of the day. And third, something which is half truth, which the other person may not even know when he has not verified facts. For example, people sending you messages in the morning about Ayurvedic treatments, people sending you about historical facts without verifying them. So that is a different category altogether.
Okay, we seem to have some difficulty with the line there with Jiten Jain. Let's not forget it's raining here in Delhi, and that's why it's technology is failing us as well at this point in time. Deepak, companies such as WhatsApp, other social media groups have always hidden behind the garb of privacy whenever it comes to issues like fake news in the past. Now, is there a conflict between the two?
So, just to build on what the previous speaker said, I think what he was trying to say, and I'm building on what he said to respond to the question, is law functions on definition. And what is the thin red line that you choose to draw? What is the line in the sand that you choose to draw between what is fact and what is fake news? Second, it is easy for us to be swayed by extremes to take a position with respect to fake news. But what are you going to do with respect to those situations where it's difficult to separate fact from fiction? That's point number two. Point number three, the aspect of privacy is not a bogey or is not a convenient wall for these entities to hide behind. Privacy is a legitimate right. See, today if privacy is recognized under Article 21 and right to privacy is available to a person, it doesn't say citizen. Person also means a juristic person. If it is a juristic person, that means it equally applies to corporate entities as well and companies as well. So what is the government's position going to be with respect to the kind of restrictions that it imposes on companies with respect to right to privacy, with respect to their data? Secondly, who owns the data, whose monitoring we seek, whose supervision we seek? Three, what we need to understand is when these people promote something and when these people merely provide a conduit for dissemination of information, these are two different aspects. So as Srijan rightly mentioned, if they decide to promote something or sponsor something or boost a certain post out of which they make a certain amount of money, perhaps you can hold them responsible with respect to this. But are we saying that we will limit fake news as a category only with respect to these kind of posts? Anything that is fake and has the tendency to go viral and is not fact and has the ability to arouse passions is fake news. That's perhaps the broad definition. How are you going to monitor something so subjective? Tomorrow I decide to say something about the genealogy of the Nehru-Gandhi family, and perhaps I'm picking and choosing facts here and there. What do you do with respect to that? That's history according to someone, that's somebody's version of history. So if there are alternative versions of all sorts of histories that are possible, how do you separate fact from fiction? So I think this is slightly dangerous. Most importantly, what we have to realize is this: where you have technology in your hands and you're driven by user-generated content and you have technologies which facilitate mass permeation, this is the kind of risk that you embrace necessarily. I'm not saying that therefore you must not have a policy response to this, you must not have an institution or a government response to this. But let the response not be knee-jerk, let it not be cosmetic, and let it not make an example out of one particular entity.
But it's a start at the end of the day. And it's a problem that we are dealing with on a daily basis. People are losing their lives at the end of the day.
See, that the primary source of information today for most people and news is still mainstream media and not WhatsApp. WhatsApp is only an alternative source. Let's call it the Ayurveda of medicine for all practical purposes.
It's a start. Maybe the government will go after mainstream media as well in the near future. Let's wait and see.
Immediately the response will be that this is an attack on free speech. Okay. So the government perhaps doesn't want to touch it.
Okay, let's wait and see then.
There are institutions for mainstream media. The efficacy of that can be questioned. But I think there is absolutely nothing when it comes to social media. So having something like a Press Council of India, for instance, something of the same level for social media would not be a bad idea.
So self-regulation is what you advocate?
Well, self-regulation is, Press Council of India, you
what it
can
does.
actually appeal it.
No, so it is, but for all practical purposes, it is self-regulation. So let social media entities also regulate themselves?
Well, but you have to set some standards to do that. The problem is there are no standards right now. The social media platforms are without any standards. And I agree that a large part of the content may be user-generated, but if you look at the US elections, there was a whole industry which was creating fake content. It was not mainstream media which was doing it. It was some village in Macedonia, which had all kinds of young people who were generating fake content, and the number of stories circulated in favor of, say, Donald Trump was about 3 crore. 3 crore stories were circulated in favor of Donald Trump compared to Hillary Clinton, which is 70 lakhs.
Social media has no boundaries, so it's difficult to really control as well at the end of the day.
Yes, so any content can come from outside. So these are the kind of things, and how do you regulate then? Your any regulation on mainstream media, which is welcome, but would only apply to mainstream media in India. How would you regulate content which comes from across the border? For that, you need to tweak the social media. So you need to have a balance on both.
Can I just add one point to this? Take the instance of a multinational corporation which is in the business of creating these kind of applications which are used for spread of information. Data could start from one jurisdiction and flow into multiple jurisdictions. That means the same data must be subjected to municipal laws of each country through which the data passes. How do you expect that particular entity to comply with the laws of 100 different countries? Your simple argument will be, if you can earn from 100 different countries, you must be able to comply with laws of 100 different countries. But is it going to be practicable? Just think of it for a moment. So it is not necessary that the origin of the so-called fake news be India. It could come from outside. It could find its way into India, and after that it could just go viral. So what are you going to police? Its entry into India? If there is information that is spread outside and then it finds its way back to another forum and not WhatsApp, how are you going to control the spread of that particular information?
So what's the solution then? I think that's what we're going to talk about now.
A very simple thing. See,
let me get in the other speakers as well, because they're not here, so they tend to be. Yeah, Jiten, I can see you putting up your hand there for a while now. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so sorry to see my lawyer friends giving this tactical spin of electronic media to be regulated and then the 100 jurisdiction stories. Lawyers can create a different narrative out of any constitution jurisdiction, I'll tell you what. But, let's talk technology. Please let's not, give the license to these companies to get away. Technologies are available to curb fake news. It's a question of investment and money and time and the will. You take example of WhatsApp. The moment you send a photo or a video on WhatsApp, first thing they do before sending it over the network is that they strip it of metadata. They delete all the information, where the photo was taken, what mobile was used, the forensic information which is useful by any law enforcement agency is deleted from that photo on the name of privacy. My appeal is that on WhatsApp, whenever you receive a photo or upload a photo, 99% of the content is repeated and forwarded. Only 1% is a new freshly uploaded content. So whenever WhatsApp gets a freshly uploaded content, please create a unique hash. Please create a photo DNA. Please store all the forensic and metadata information of that photo on your servers. Don't reveal it to the public, so that tomorrow if it turns into a viral fake news, law enforcement should be able to get back to you and ask for that information. And for that, there is only money. What is required is for technology and storage, which is very cheap these days. So this is technologically possible. Second is the question of encryption, what they're talking about. See, encryption is to prevent people from monitoring, spying and espionage. Okay, it is not to verify and monitor the content. I'll tell you what, the moment today, even YouTube and Gmails are completely end-to-end encrypted. But the moment if I upload a video of this show tonight on YouTube, it will give me a warning saying that this is the copyright IPR content of Rajya Sabha TV. You cannot make ad revenue out of it. They match every single frame against any content which is available. Similarly, somebody is uploading a child porn, terrorism, fake news, or any old new photo on the name of old photo, or any old photo on the name of today's photo of some other place or some other event. They are very well technologically capable of detecting it. The question is that they are not doing it because they are making money out of data in these conversations. So let's not say that these companies do not have technology. And the last question of jurisdiction, sorry, if the data is passing through 100 countries, so it be. Wherever it is originated, wherever it is published, those jurisdictions must be complied with. Tomorrow if somebody uploads a photo of Pegambar or a Hindu god, you cannot say that it has traveled to 100 countries, so it is not possible to comply. Sorry, if you are making money in 100 countries, you have to comply by the law of 100 countries. That's it.
Okay.
Just because you are representing some corporate entities here and there, you cannot, draw these narratives or giving them a free run and say that technologically it is not possible to curb the fake news and it is not in the interest of technology to, hold these companies accountable with the policy. We have to do it. I mean, you cannot say that when 50 persons are killed on the roads of India and WhatsApp cannot say, sorry, it is a problem of technology, we can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
you are making out of money of the
point
technology,
taken.
right?
At the end of the day, people are losing their lives, so something has to be done.
Google's own employee was lynched.
Yes. Okay, let me get in Rahul Easwar also, who's been patiently listening, the last 10 minutes or so. Rahul Easwar, the floor is yours.
Yeah, just 2 quick points. One, see, there is nothing called absolute freedom. There is only responsible liberty and constitutionally guaranteed liberty. We all have some kind of Lakshmana Rekhas that we shouldn't cross. There are guidelines. There are some Lakshmana Rekhas we should definitely remember. So whatever it is, there is a reality. We all know the reality that there is fake news on ground. Yes, there are many grey areas. Nobody is saying no. There are many grey areas. It is not like white and black. But at the same point of time, we should be guarded against the evil, which fake news can create lynching, can create killing people on the street. And nobody should be able to upload any fake news or anti-national news or Islamophobic news or anti-woman news in the name of this. So there are some thin lines. Yes, we can definitely debate where to draw that particular line. But that line definitely exists. You cannot wish away that line. And we don't live in an absolutely relativistic and nihilistic society. There are some mutually agreeable guidelines we have to find. That's a space I think government has taken a right step, whether it be social media or mainstream media or whichever arena it is. There are some guidelines that we have to follow, and unless our society is going to follow that guideline, if you are going to believe in nihilism, we are going to end up in a broken society. We cannot be extremely moral nihilistic or absolute moral relativistic, but some kind of guideline should be agreed upon. I think this is a step in the right direction. We should definitely debate where to draw that line, but please remember, we cannot exist without drawing that particular Lakshmana Rekha.
Okay, indeed.
Can I add one point?
I think we should move on from here and talk about solutions now.
Sure. Just one point, because there was an ad hominem.
Very quickly, both of you, one point each, and then we'll talk about
made about
solutions.
me representing some corporate entity. I think that was completely unwarranted. The point should be this: let's not get on a high moral ground here to say that any of the point of view here, which is basically presenting a different perspective, is a representative of a corporate standpoint. What is important to understand is this: in the transaction in question where the information is being spread, if the entity is entitled to protection as an intermediary, then an intermediary is immune under the law. This is the position of the law as far as today is concerned. If the entity chooses to interfere with that particular piece of information, the moment it does so in any manner, it becomes responsible for interference and transmission of that particular information. I am specifically relying on Section 79 of the Information Technology Act, which was the subject matter of the Shreya Singhal case. People should read this before they speak about this particular issue. So as far as I am concerned, if you ask these people who are intermediaries for all practical purposes with respect to this particular transaction to interfere with the data, then you're asking them to let go of their status as intermediary, and therefore you're asking them to let go of their immunity, which is available under the law. This is something that we need to discuss.
Right.
No, but he was saying something else. I think Jiten was saying something else. He was saying you're actually removing the metadata out of the images. So that is actually manipulation of the data. So you cannot hide behind that. You are actually manipulating data.
Okay, one at a time. Okay, hold on. One at a time, please. Let's talk about solutions now. Let's move on from there and talk about what are the possible solutions as far as this issue is concerned, because it is a serious issue at the end of the day. Whoever is responsible needs to be punished, needs to be pulled up as well. Srijan, solutions.
Okay, so solutions, let's begin with. What do? I come across an image which has a popular news logo on it, and it's an image which says something has happened, some lynching has happened, or some god has been desecrated, or something has happened, which is probably going to be inflammatory. What I do is I drag this image and I put it back into the Google image reverse search, and that actually tells me what is the source of that image. It's not that difficult. The AI exists, and I'm surprised that WhatsApp does not do it on its own, and I have to do it on behalf of WhatsApp to verify it for myself. So that is the technological AI, the technological tools already exist. It took Facebook 2 years, for instance, to tell us that the Cambridge Analytica issue happened, and it took Twitter another 3 years to actually start removing fake accounts, which has started now. The AI tools exist. And one point which I would agree with you on this, the fact that people need to be educated. We, just like we've been taught at school and at college levels on what are the ethical standards, what are standards of plagiarism, for instance, we now need to teach children and young people and population at large on this social media literacy.
All right.
So,
Jiten, way forward, solutions really.
So first of all, I think all these companies should be ensured that if they remove metadata, they will not take any advantage. They will not have any of this protection under safe harbor provision which they normally look for. The government asking WhatsApp to form a corporate local entity and store data here. This is precisely for two fundamental reasons. One is that whenever you give a notice to these companies under Indian law or Indian courts, they refuse to appear, saying that we are American companies, we are not here, so we will not respond. So if WhatsApp is forced to form a legal local entity here, a legal company, I think they will very well have to comply with Indian laws from now on. Second is the question of data localization. Look, WhatsApp is very soon going to launch this payment service with Indian banks based on Bheem and Aadhaar. So, it is very interesting in the nation to avoid any controversy like Cambridge Analytica or any financial surveillance, that all the transactional data of Indian customers are stored on Indian servers within the jurisdiction of Indian government. So I think this is a very fundamental step every country is doing, and India should also do it.
Right.
So it's not that we are hindering any sort of global free flow of data. We are only trying to protect the privacy of Indian citizens, which is a very welcome step.
Okay.
So last point, if all social media companies, instant messaging companies, they should be forced to ensure that they should store the metadata of all the content which is uploaded and by whom. They should store the details of the source. That's
All right. Rahul, Easwar, way forward.
Absolutely. Social media literacy is the way ahead. Fake news, which is right now turning into hate news, shouldn't be promoted. We cannot have such hate news and fake news in our nation. Some kind of mechanism, which can be a combination of technology, social media awareness, being responsible netizens, like we are being responsible citizens, can be done. But there is a menace. We shouldn't close our eyes. And no, we shouldn't close our eyes towards that reality of fake news, which in effect is creating lynchings and killings in our nation. That reality should be kept in mind, whichever decision we are going to take.
All right. Sai Deepak, close the show for us with your concluding
I'd simply
remarks.
say that fake news is fake news, regardless of whichever platform it comes from. If you only have a problem with the rate of dissemination of a certain platform, then perhaps you're missing the point, which is that fake news, whichever platform it comes from, is a problem. Therefore, when you choose to define this particular issue and when you choose to craft a policy for this particular issue, don't do it only for the purposes of social media, address it holistically. There is absolutely no reason for anyone to assume that this allows a particular private entity to run away or to escape or evade its responsibility. Not at all, not one bit. Because the law clearly says if they have played a role in the dissemination and which is active, then they will be held responsible. And as far as privacy rules are concerned, they are still bound by it. There is absolutely no problem with that particular issue. However, my problem is simply with this, that if you're looking at a solution, then look at a solution to address fake news itself as a whole.
All right. On that note, then, we'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.